All right,
Welcome to the meeting, everyone. Council agenda session.
On the packet that I gave you, the first item is permission to advertise the budget ordinance for a vote at the December 8th meeting. It needs to have 10 days advertising. And so Jim needs to advertise the ordinance in advance.
You have your narrative attached here.
I have everything attached. You guys got everything. The only thing I didn't update is on the packet what you have, and I will down the road once I get some final numbers, was 2014 numbers. Because they're not final yet.
Yes.
I have updated. I've actually done some analysis, which we can talk about more at the regular meeting if you want. I've done some analysis of the budget and where we are in 2014. So, but I'm talking about the budget for 2015. Everything's there.
And you presented a balanced budget, right?
Yeah, it's balanced. We're drawing a little bit from the capital, about $6,500.
$6,500?
Yeah.
Okay.
This year we put $50,000 into the capital. I guess that's right. These are all invoices. I did put, but this year we took $50,000 for the budget and put it in the capital. In 2015, we're taking $6,500 out of capital and putting it back. It's just an intergovernmental transfer.
Right.
But I have looked at the budget in general, where we are at least at this point in 2014. Everything seems to be, we are on track. The budget revenues are going to come in a little higher than we budgeted, and the expenses right now are about 8.5%, from budget. Now that's as of today, so there'll be some additional costs, but everything looks to be on track.
For the 2014.
Right. No, we should not, I don't see any need for tax anticipation. Put TAN in it right now. Tax anticipation.
Right.
For 2014.
Tax anticipation.
Yeah, TAN in it.
There are some years we've had one, some years not, so.
And you don't anticipate one issue?
No.
Anticipate the need for one?
No, I don't see what we're going to have a need. It's a cash flow. There's enough retained earnings to cover any shortfall that we have. Your revenue, your real estate revenue taxes don't come in until about April, but so you've got that time period, about 12 weeks, but I don't see what is an issue.
Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is, I sent you a draft informational sign policy. What I'd like to do is have council look at the policy, take a look at it and see what you think. Now, Jim would do a more formal presentation. But what I'd like from the council is, the last page is fees, and there's 4 structures in there. There's category 1, which if you see on the very first page is the library, volunteer fire company, and the township, or the city. These will all be able to go on the sign for free. Now, the next category is the ambulance and school district. There would be a fee for that. And then you go into not-for-profits, foundations, etc. And then the last category is for-profit. What I'd like to do is I'd like to set up a free structure that will fit each category.
Like a per word or per...
Yeah, really per occurrence. It's a 6 to 10 second time period the sign's flashing. And you only have so many you can do per cycle, maybe 10 or 12 different passages. So basically what you say is, for example, what South Greensburg does, you want to advertise your son's birthday, happy birthday, whatever. They charge a fee, and they put that up for like 3 days. For graduation, happy graduation, whatever. And it's something nice for the community, and they charge between 5 and 10. I'm thinking a little bit more for admin costs, but I'm just going to suggest maybe 20 or 25, something like that. And you get your son, or daughter's name up on the sign for 3 days. Second and third. Now, that's just one example.
Something I'd just throw out for thought. Do we want to limit the usage of the sign to people or entities who have a presence within the city? Now, that could limit the number of nonprofits, but there could be some nonprofits that have no presence here whatsoever that we may not want on that sign. So you may want to think about, once you open it up to different entities, you may open it up to some entities that you may not prefer it be advertising on that sign. So,
And is that in this, is that clause in here?
Yeah, it says on there, the city of Latrobe has an exclusive right to reject any message from any group for any reason. Now, as I was telling Jim, this is basically, Tim Rogers over in Shaler, who is an attorney, but he's also a township manager, wrote this, and it's been tested pretty well, but, you know, Jim's gonna refine it a little bit so that it reflects more of what the city of Latrobe needs. But I still want input from the council on what they think should be in there also.
Okay.
Who will be will you be in charge?
I'm the keeper of the sign. It's my new title.
Is there a time frame on how long the sign will be on?
It's gonna be on 24 hours. It's gonna be here.
Yeah, I know where it's going to be, but
So
I
it's
just
not-
wondered if there was a time frame.
No,
When it's
there-
gonna start, you mean?
No, how long the sign will be lit? 24-hour period, 12-hour period?
Yeah, because it's in a commercial district, we're not gonna be affecting anybody's. If it was in residential, we would want to tailor the hours.
is it going to run 24 hours a day?
Yes, and I said it's gonna run 24 hours, and it can because.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. That's what, in Shaler, they limited the hours because it was in a residential area.
Do you get more? Shaler, for example, their fees, are they set on a part-time basis, so many hours a day, 12 hours?
Theirs is basically on that, yeah, the 12-hour, their day is on their day. In other words, they.
In other words, what I'm saying is, wouldn't you want to raise the fee for 24-hour
And
coverage?
that's what he said.
Yeah.
Like Shelley was charging $5 and $10, he's thinking about charging.
Oh, I didn't hear that
Yeah,
part.
yeah. Or they would charge it 10 and 15 or something.
Yeah.
He's thinking of charging more, just thinking, but that's a good analysis because it'll be lit up 24 hours.
Right, like I said, I'd like to have input from the council as to what you think a fair fee would be for the different groups.
One other question for me, Wayne. So when you have a discrepancy and you rule on something and they bring it here, what do you think our process is going to be? Is that going to be a council vote? Is it going to be done deal once you say no? Like, you know, somebody's going to, if you say no to someone, everyone's going to know. And then it's going to either be brought here to a meeting or it's going to be emailed to all of us or.
Well, the only reason I'd say no is if we don't have any room for it.
Yeah.
But,
Or
Or
if it's,
well, if it's a group that we feel is not your uncomfortable, you always outrule me.
Yeah, I'm just curious. I'm not trying to be
or,
bossy.
you know,
You know, I just
No,
feel.
I'm not thinking that way.
Yeah, but I
I'm
just.
sure we're gonna have to edit the message for any vulgarities or anything.
Well, the message is going to be provided to us in advance. It says in the policy.
But that's the reason to say no, is what I'm saying.
Oh, sure.
They could be an entity in it, taxpayer entity in the city, and have a
Yeah, that's what.
unpleasant message
Sure.
to present.
Yeah, and you know.
Well, just come back to what I said. Think about the fact, if you rule out anybody that does not have a presence here, meaning an office or a building, if they're here, they're subject to the criticisms of the populace. If they're based in Houston, Texas, or
Exactly.
Albuquerque, New Mexico, what do they do? So, I mean, think about that limitation, which is a fair limitation across the board. We're not saying any one group or any one agency, we're just saying you've got to have a physical presence here if you want to use our sign.
That might cut down though too, like
Right.
Greensburg wants to advertise here for a gun bash or whatever, you know, just giving an example, like, we would want them to advertise, let's help out other.
Well,
the other issue
I just
is-
said that for nonprofits.
Yeah.
Greensburg is a municipal corporation.
Yeah, so then that
You
would
can
be
expand
okay.
that.
And the other issue too is like Chamber of Commerce, which is now really not physically located
Here,
in
it's in New York.
Latrobe, even though they are.
But it represents Great Latrobe Rural Valley Chamber.
Yeah, and we're certainly a strong partner in that, you know.
Yeah,
When do we anticipate the sign being up?
After Thanksgiving.
okay. So you're really asking us just for fees after all this, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically, read the policy, if you have any objection to the policy, certainly, we can change it. But really, I'm kind of looking for an idea of fee structure. It's very, and you want to make, especially for the for-profits, you want to make it high enough that you're not advertising for everything, because it is a revenue stream.
But low enough that it's affordable, that people would want to do it.
Exactly. It's good, and it's very hard to find. I tried to go online to see what Lamar and some of the big people charge, and it's very difficult to get that
Did you
information.
ask?
Is there a schedule, is there gonna be a schedule for who gets advertised and who's first or second, or?
Well, there's 4 categories. The first category is going to go, I mean, township, fire companies come first. Second is the ambulance, school. Third is, so there's that priority, but there's also he who comes first, he who gets it first.
That's what I meant, like,
Yeah.
Joe Blow comes up Monday and says he wants it, and then Tuesday, maybe the fire department wants something on it, it's too late to.
Well, what you're going to do is, we're not going to, in other words, we would be taking, like right now, would be even late for December. We would take sometime toward the beginning of November, looking to do something for December. So it's not going to be, you're not going to be cut out if you don't get it right away. Yeah. That's what you were asking. Sorry.
Are all the meetings that are for the different organizations going to be on the sign, like the council meeting and the municipal authority?
Yeah, I would think that anything, I mean, obviously the township, or city comes first, so therefore, those are going to take precedence, and then the meetings are going to take precedence over that.
I guess that you'd have to learn the programming and the frequency of the messages, the repeatability, and how many you can load in that time period.
Yeah, that, like I said, and you also don't want to make the message too long. It's got to be pretty short. Even if it just references, go to our website and see our meeting schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, 4 lines, no more than 24 characters per line. So.
Right. Alrighty.
Okay.
I'll be looking, whatever, however you want to handle the input as far as the fee structure, but I'm looking for help on that.
My thinking would be if the council can get their suggestions to Wayne, then we could put this on the agenda in January. It'd be a resolution adopting the policy. So if you have changes to or concerns about the language or some idea about the fees, get that to Wayne maybe by the December meeting.
By the December, but you want it on for January. So how will we handle the sign until January?
Really, we'll just run township and
We'll
public.
just run the
fire.
cities,
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we just do category 1, I keep
Okay.
saying township, I'm sorry, I'm going to
city.
I know it is. I apologize.
Yeah.
Yeah, the city and probably the fire companies.
Well, I would think city right
I have a headache, I
I
apologize.
just need a reminder, that's all.
Next on the list is parking in the city.
There you go.
Thank you. Again,
Coming your way on Fox TV.
again, I'm not really sure what.
The mayor said something about forming a committee on council, or have council be representative to take, and I'm not quite sure, but I believe it was to interact with the parking authority. Just like she said, there's a park and rec liaison, one person from council. It used to be Fabian, and now it's the mayor who relays park and rec information. There probably should be a water authority person. As Babe was discussing with me earlier. There probably should be a industrial development, someone to bring that in. Even though those groups don't meet as often, but they still meet, and they're still lifeblood of the city. And in addition to the parking authority, to have someone, because there are concerns that come up on the council floors. There was a meeting or 2 ago about some parking issues, and those can be, and I know Joe Bush went and addressed some of those, but that particular issue anyhow. But there could be something that comes up on a council floor that needs to be directed to the parking authority, and that there's a liaison that should be here. And I think that's what she wanted to do with that. And I know, former city managers were attending the parking authority meetings, and there was a lot going on with the closing of the garage and then rehab of it. So there was a lot going on this time. But I think that still should continue. But we ought to have some. I'm sure there should be some liaison from council that should represent council at the meeting. And I think that's what she meant, forming a committee or a liaison.
And then Jimmy, our chief, and Joe both said they'd like to sit down with somebody and talk about our park.
Yes, because, and again, the city, the parking authority manages the off-street parking, right?
Right, street parking.
And the street parking is the city, so
Yes.
there's somebody, council besides that, but somebody, parking is intertwined, so we need to have a good connection between the parking authority and the city to, and you're right, Joe, Chief Bumar and Joe Bush would like to sit down with council and get some things that were done in the past recorrected and ironed out.
They had a list. I forget what, I went to a parking authority meeting once and Joe and Jimmy were there and they had a big list. I think it was about changing or removing anyhow, they got a big list here. They have 13 points on this list, but.
Yeah, and Chief Bumar reported at one of our meetings, some of that stuff had been started. They had removed some of the meters down
Yeah.
here on Jefferson Street.
Depot Street.
Yeah.
Depot Street was changed, and some of that's part of that list, if I recall.
Yeah.
But that's, I guess another reason for someone from council to be there to make sure and check, things are followed up with. So I imagine she would talk with you and decide how she wants to do it.
Okay, all right.
Between the two.
Yeah, as I said, they haven't had a meeting for a while anyway, so it's not, nobody's missed anything, but I'm sure in the near future, the parking garage, parking garage will meeting. Okay, next on the hit parade is the Hoffman boarding kennel contract. If you look at the agreement that you have in front of you, the only thing that's changed is went from $60 per call to $65 per call, and from $255 to $260 for the per month.
255 to 260.
Yes, $260 now. Both of them went up $5 each.
We'll be $120 for the whole year, $60.
What was the first category?
How do we pay them?
Per call.
Which was paying 260. You gotta pay them for each. How many you call it?
And I kind of think that, from what I understand, they're probably the only game.
Like as a retainer?
$60 a month.
How many timers are they called?
A year.
You know, I have to look at this, yeah, good thing for sure. I know in a lot of places they're pretty well used. I don't know about here.
Now, how much are we paying them? 260 for?
It's $255 right now for a month, and it'll be $260.
They're $5 times 12.
Can we get no business?
What's that?
Saying $5 a month is going up.
Yeah, 60.
Yeah, but $260 a month we're paying them.
Yeah, he takes care of a lot of the issues for that. There's emergency ones at the $65 call.
Yeah.
There are some,
So that covers non-emergencies, the 260 a month.
Correct.
any event the dog bite matters, I challenge no better responsibility on all observations.
Wayne, will you look how many times they're called? I'm just curious.
That's fine, yeah. I know, like I said, former life, we would have 80 to 85 deer calls in a year. I don't know what they have out there.
And they've been called in for several different reasons. And some of that is covered with their monthly fee. If you're called in on emergency, I guess is what it says here.
All right, next on my agenda was the April COPAS thing. You have in front of you, it wasn't part of the packet, but April has asked if Latrobe is interested in joining with Jeanette and I forget who else, Mount Pleasant, yeah, to part of a coalition. They're getting money for these brown areas, and she thought that Latrobe would be a good match within that, part of the coalition. It helps increase what they can go after by about $200,000 a year, and there's no cost to the city
To be part of the coalition?
to be part of it, or even The grant money, I asked her if there was any grant money matching, and she said no. So, see, from what she says, there's no cost at all.
And the added benefit is we do get somebody on the coalition board. What that will mean down the road, I don't know. It's getting, on the ground.
And this is for brownfields, and we're talking about
The
cleanup of
gas stations, dry cleaners,
former steel plants.
Former steel plants, yeah.
They need a lot of grants.
Well, downsized steel plants, I guess I should say, they're still here, but
Yeah,
they're
that
very
may-
under review, whatever.
That may come in handy down the road, depending on what happens down the street here.
And again, no cost to be part of the coalition.
Yes.
And no matching requirement for any grant we receive.
I have her word right here.
I think that just mirrors the regionalization idea of giving grant funds. The more you have participating, the more likely you are to get those funds.
And having a coalition allows them to apply for 200,000 more money than the original cap of 400,000. They can apply for up to 600,000. That would be split among could be shared by the coalition if we meet the criteria.
Right, or maybe, 1 year it's used here, 1 year it's used there, that type of thing. The 600,000.
Part of the coalition this money would be for the coalition.
Right.
And that would be a resolution for council meeting.
Who would decide who gets the money?
It would be the coalition would vote on it. The board overseeing the money.
So that's what we would get a vote, essentially.
Right,
yeah,
It
we
doesn't
would get some.
necessarily mean we prevail,
Yeah, but
but
we get a vote.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a greater say in that coalition.
Each one would have a third option.
Third or quarter if you count the April Copus's group. Lastly, I have Jim's asked me to mention about line of credit.
We do this every year.
What?
Commercial bank line of credit. We have not used it in 15 or 20 years, but we do it to have it there for a rainy day as a just in case.
Yeah, we do that.
Okay.
And that would be an ordinance.
That's my list.
And just as a reminder, the turkey trot is Thanksgiving Day Thursday. I know this fireman will be out watching the intersections, and council people will be participating in it.
Yeah.
And also, Santa makes his official visit to City of Latrobe on Friday. Rogers Park, rain pending to come here. I know Chief Brazili participates in bringing him here on the ladder truck.
What time is it?
What's that?
Do you know what time that is?
I believe it's 9. It's in the paper today. There was an ad in today's Latrobe Bulletin. 9 or 10. I don't know the exact time for it, but it is Friday, the day after Thanksgiving.
Any idea when you're opening up over there?
I know they're
January.
Yeah.
They, of course, they also said September, so.
Are they scheduling classes already now?
They're trying to start class in January.
That's not the last thing. I teach them.
Okay.
The projection, I believe, that I was told was mid-semester.
We had a meeting with them a couple days ago.
Oh,
And they were
really?
saying that January, but they said they were going to try and open up for January. And it may be under limited.
Maybe. But
Anybody else have anything to be on?
I got a question, Jim, might help me with this. Like, in the home rule charter, we have the mayor, she puts up names for the board, appointed the boards and authorities and stuff like that, and we vote on it. And if she can just keep on putting the same name up and everything else, there's nothing really we can do about that. Am I correct there?
Unless the mayor mayor wishes to defer to council, that's happened in the past, but it's been always at the option of the mayor. If the same individual is rejected on more than one occasion, the mayor is not obligated, can say, okay, council, make nominations, and I will treat that nomination as the person I'm putting forth.
Okay,
That's
now,
how we've done it in the past.
no, the question I have, on that charter, is there any way we can change that, where everybody will be voted on?
In order to change the charter, we've got to put it to a public referendum. And there, quite candidly, there are probably numerous provisions in the charter that ought to be looked at for revision, but it's got to go through a public referendum. We can do what essentially happened when the Home Rule Charter was first created, and create a commission to look at it and say, okay, what needs to be tweaked or changed or put before the populace, and then those changes would then be put up to a vote with voters. That's the only way you can change the charter, is by the voters.
And the home rule charter is different than the
Different than the administrative code.
administrative code.
We set that, but the charter is set by the voting public. And we could not have done this within the first 5 years, but we're well beyond that now.
Yeah. Because it does become frustrating whenever, if you have a list of people that are interested and then only one person gets nominated, if all the people get nominated and let the vote be up to council. I mean, if you only have one person, then that's, and historically, that's pretty much how it's been, except recently we've had some positions that have entertained numerous applicants, but they're not getting to the floor for a vote on council. And again, that's a function of the
I
charter.
mean, this is the advertisement, you had an advertisement in the Greensburg paper that asked the citizens of Latrobe to run for stuff, but then here you got citizens of Latrobe run for something, their names don't be put up.
Right. And that's something that I think should be addressed.
There are numerous parts of the charter that probably need to be looked at, and that can be what? I mean, that is certainly a departure from the way it was before the charter came into existence. As to why the initial commission said that that's how it ought to be, and I can't say. I don't know what was in there
That
about
was
it.
initial.
So, Jim, moving forward, how would we go, like, do we need to vote to make that commission, or do we?
Well,
do we just-
yeah, the council could put it up to a vote, make a motion. When the first commission created the charter, it had a mixture of private citizens and council members. And they worked long and hard. We also had a consultant who worked with them, Joe Bendel from Keysport, Jim's brother. But he worked with them. So, I mean, it was a long and difficult task, and they finally came back and presented the council then the draft of the charter.
So you're saying there's only a few things that you would change, you think, that we should revise, not change?
I'm not so, I mean, I honestly have to sit down and look at it section by section, but, you know, there are some provisions in there that probably need to be at least refined, and, you know, maybe this is one of them.
No, in that charter, doesn't it say it has to have 5 people from Latrobe on that board?
Which, on the Latrobe Municipal Authority, not the charter. I think that's in their bylaws. And it may be in the 1973 service agreement as well, but I don't think it is.
Where does it say now that is, you know?
That it has
I know
to be
you
in
get
the
a piece of
rule.
paper, you said it, you know, just majority, it can be 4 people. We have 4 people, something. It gives a piece of paper, you know. We're saying we needed 5 on there, but you're saying it's only 4.
A majority.
Majority.
Yeah, I mean, right now, there are 7 people participating if you count the representative from Unity Township and Derry.
Right.
So of those 7, 4 would be a majority. I mean, so it doesn't require 5 to be, you know, to be from Latrobe. You still have the
But
majority.
that's it. To me, I'm looking at it as we want to, you know, say, give it down to 4, and then we still got the majority. It was always 5. We always used to get 5.
And that could be well true, but I'm saying in terms of the Municipal Authorities Act and in terms of the requirement, the Municipal Authorities Act, and that's what I handed out, requires that the majority of the voting members be from the body that appoints them. In this case, they're from the entity that appoints them, which is the city. We appoint LMA. So we need a voting majority from Latrobe. But beyond that, the Act also does permit membership for individuals who live within the service area, which may not necessarily, it's more than Latrobe. That could be Gary and Unity too.
That's if they pay taxes here, wasn't they own something here?
No. All they have to do is be a resident of the service area. The service area is wherever LMA serves people.
You guys might want to read that. That's the only thing.
That's what it says.
I'll pull no offense on you. I don't think you know what you're talking about, Jim.
Then you get.
But Jim, I'm just joking right now.
I know you
I think you ought to read how you want to understand that, because that's not. They always had 5.
Yeah, there's always been.
I'm not going to say that's not true.
And I think that, you know, with the pending issues between the he said, she said that's going on now with the Act 537, I see no reason not to continue with a supermajority of city residents. When, and again, we've addressed this, I don't want to address this without her here, but when we have applicants from the city, I think it's not prudent to appoint someone who's not a city resident when we have viable and willing applicants who are city residents to be part of that, as part of that authority, whether it's parking authority, industrial development authority. This one happens to be water authority.
Well, how many people that applied for that water authority position were engineers?
They pay for an engineer out there.
What's that?
They pay for an engineer out there.
I didn't ask that question. How many of that applied for it were engineers? Only one, I think.
I don't know that. Yeah. I don't even know if that one's an engineer, but I know, I don't know what his qualifications are. I didn't see that. I can tell you I'm an engineer, but I didn't see his qualifications on his paper.
Apparently that's not a requirement because the guy that they replaced wasn't an engineer.
No,
That's right.
You got guys sitting on that board, didn't graduate high school over the years. You know what I mean, sir?
Well, I think that an engineer would be maybe more qualified to be able to make decisions regarding engineering issues on a water authority. That's just my opinion, you know.
And that could be right, and I think that the city resident would be more apt to make decisions that would benefit the city versus someone who doesn't have any ties to the city, but.
Well, the water authority does more than just the city, though, I think.
I understand that, but
And they have representation from another area.
they have representation somewhere else. And how the water authority works is, if we whatever we charge them, the outlying residents, their municipality, water authority charges them whatever rate they want. We charge Dairy Township so much per resident for people that use our, they may add $10 to that and charge their residents. And we charge Unity Township that rate, but Unity Township charges their people their rate, regardless of what we charge them. So that fee, that, you know, there could be a change. Act 537 can make a big change in everybody's.
What's going on with that?
Rate.
Yes. What's going on with that now?
There's a meeting scheduled.
I would, if you wish to discuss it, I'd be happy to, but in executive session.
There is a meeting scheduled.
It's scheduled tomorrow.
Yeah. So there's a meeting
Yeah,
scheduled.
we'll have a little more information after that.
I think everybody's appealing the decision that the state made. I don't know if Dairy Township is, but
They
I
did.
think Unity Township and Latrobe are appealing.
No, Unity did not.
Oh, they didn't? I
Neither Unity
thought they voted
Township,
to
no.
appeal.
The appellants of the decision of the administrative order are the city, the Latrobe Municipal Authority, Darien Township and Darien Township Municipal Authority, and the Borough of Youngstown. Neither Unity Township nor Unity Township Municipal Authority filed an appeal.
Oh, dang, I thought they were going to.
Anything else? Happy Thanksgiving and see you in December.
Jim, we're going to-